Max was the type of person who thrived on excitement and thrill. He had always lived his life on the edge, constantly looking for his next adrenaline rush. His friends joked that he had a death wish, but Max brushed off their concerns with a laugh and a shrug. "I'm invincible, so let her time," they brought it up. One night, after a few beers and some bragging about his latest exploits, Max's friend Connor dared him to explore an abandoned railway tunnel on the outskirts of town. The tunnel was notorious in the local urban legend circuit. People whispered about strange sounds, disappearing animals, and even the occasional missing person. But to Max, it sounded like just another adventure. "Come on, man. No one ever really disappeared there. It's just a creepy old tunnel," Saletti Max with a cocky grin. "Bet you won't make it all the way through." Saletti Connor, egging him on. Max's eyes lit up at the challenge. "You're on. I'll go through the whole thing and come out the other side." "Easy," Saletti, grabbing his flashlight and heading for the car. The tunnel was a good 30-minute drive from town, and as they got closer, the road became darker and more isolated. The trees grew thicker, casting long shadows in the moonlight, and an eerie silence settled over the car. But Max was undeterred. They parked at the mouth of the tunnel, its entrance yawning open like a giant black void. Max grabbed his flashlight and gave Connor a confident nod. "Wait here. I'll be back before you know it," Saletti then disappeared into the darkness. As Max ventured further into the tunnel, the walls seemed to close in on him. The air was damp and cold, and the sound of his footsteps echoed in the oppressive silence. But he wasn't scared. Not yet. About halfway through, something strange happened. His flashlight flickered, casting erratic shadows on the walls. Max smacked it a couple of times, annoyed, and continued on. But then, he heard a faint, distant sound. It was barely perceptible, but it made the hairs on the back of his neck stand up, probably just the wind. Saletti trying to shake off the uneasy feeling creeping up on him. But as he kept walking, the sound grew louder. It wasn't the wind. It was a voice. A whisper. He stopped, straining to listen. The whisper echoed through the tunnel, bouncing off the walls, coming from every direction. "Who's there?" Saletti Max, his voice trembling for the first time, ... and no response. "Come on, stop messing with me." Saletti louder this time, trying to sound more confident than he felt. The whisper continued, now accompanied by the unmistakable sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate footsteps coming from behind him. Max spun around, but his flashlight flickered again, casting only fleeting glimpses of the tunnel behind him. He saw nothing, but the footsteps continued, growing closer. Panic surged through him. He turned and started to run, but the tunnel felt endless. The more he ran, the louder the footsteps became, always just a few paces behind him. His breath came in ragged gasps, his heart pounding in his chest. Then, without warning, the ground beneath him shifted. Max's foot hit something loose gravel, perhaps, and he tumbled forward, hitting the cold, hard ground with a thud. His flashlight clattered out of his hand, plunging him into darkness. Scrambling to his feet, Max heard the footsteps again, this time closer than ever. A cold chill ran down his spine as he realized the whispering voice was now right next to him. His flashlight flickered on for a brief second, illuminating a face pale, gaunt, and inches away from his own. Max screamed. Max's downfall wasn't just the tunnel, it was his arrogance, his unwavering belief that he could conquer anything, even the supernatural. In his mind, danger was something to be laughed at, something that happened to other people, never to him. But in the end, it was his reckless nature that led him straight into the jaws of something far more sinister than he could have imagined. The tunnel was a symbol of the darkness he refused to acknowledge, and it ultimately consumed him. Sometimes the thrill isn't worth the risk.